Hello everyone and welcome to the Pitskill.io Porsche Cup sponsored by SimQuips. And tonight we are at the Hungaroring, a track renowned for being very slippery, and things aren't going to be made easier by the zero traction control of these Porsche Cup cars. So expecting these drivers to have some difficulties around this circuit, as we see Sam McCarthy going pretty sideways through the hairpin, but it's Busso who we are following right now, who will be the first driver to complete a flying lap of the circuit. As we go on board with Busso, who takes a tight line through the uphill hairpin. Let's bring us round through the second sector into chicane, taking a liberal chunk of the sausage curves and into the tricky what I consider the final sector is actually considerably before the actual final sector line, but the winding section of the track brings us towards the section dominated by 90-degree corners, actually one 90-degree corner and two hairpins actually, bringing us to the end of this lap, and we will see the first of our times up on the board. As Busso comes into the final corner now, steady on the brakes, roll the speed through, running it quite close to the inside there for the braking. I expect Busso will be able to find a bit more time in subsequent laps. But first lap over the line is a 1:47.6 for Busso, which is swiftly beaten by the man behind him, Sam McCarthy. 1:47.1 is our benchmark for now, as our winner last time out at Imola, Johan Leff. 1:47.0, the top of the field looking awfully close at the moment. As we check in with our championship leader, and take this opportunity to take a look at the standings. And after the win last time out, Johan Leff, still a gap of 120 points, although worth bearing in mind that there is three drop rounds in this series, and Johan Leff was not present for one of the rounds so far, so really that gap only 20 points, although still quite a gulf. We'll have to close up, and he's going to need some good results in the next couple of races start to close that gap up. And as in P3 by quite some margin we have got Samuel von Liebenstein. Close behind him is where the real battle is for this championship, followed closely behind by Sam McCarthy and Robert Weidbeck, with just 15 points separating those three. That, I think, is going to be where we're going to need to focus our attention on as we enter into the second half of this series, as Reece Tassel taking a very deep line into the final corner there, so I suspect we'll be finding more time as we go through this session, as Reece Tassel has crossed the line and has not completed a valid lap yet. So that going deep into that final corner was, I imagine, just to try and get the fastest possible run over the start-finish line. So Reece Tassel can start his first flying lap of the session. There's Sam McCarthy back on top. A 1:46.7. We can check in to see who is improving, as Busso is finding a little bit of time heading up to the chicane. The driver finding heaps of time at the moment, as they just crossed the line, was Luke Tranmer. 1:48.0, still 1.3 seconds off of our fastest in this session. Tranmer, a driver who I don't think puts much practice into these Porsche Cup cars, so does often find a lot of time throughout the session. We check to see who else do we have who is finding time at the moment. It is the car just behind Tranmere in this qualifying session is Robert Weidbeck, although Weidbeck being held up a little bit, it seems, by the car of, I want to say that is Young in front. I don't see Rovchenko on the board tonight. So Weidbeck is clear and still up on their time, so that's not held them up too much. But shooting to the top of the times for now is Reece Tattersall with a 1:46.1. Half a second clear of the driver in P2, that of Busso. And yet again, Reece Tattersall stamping his authority on the session. One lap, back in the pits. It would be a real baller move if he just stays in the pits for the rest of the session. I expect we will see him back out on track again, but that is a dominant display from Reece, and yep, he is back out on track now. That Bruce liveried car returning to the circuit for a second stint. As more and more drivers are finding performance. John Sawyer just rounding the second to last corner, heading into the final corner with enough of a margin in front of him for him to be able to have a clear run to the line. He's finding plenty of time on this lap, just about keeps it within the track limits, and that moves John Sawyer up into P6. Down towards the bottom of the field, we've got another driver finding some time. Matthews Santons crossing the line for 1:48.8, puts him at P17 for now. Going faster now is Johan Leff. Going to find some time on this lap. Not going to be enough to challenge Tattersall at this point, but should be enough to move them up to P2. And it does. So I'm at 0.2 of a second adrift. So it's still some time to find. But that's a much improved lap there for Leff. 1:46.3. Daniel Dees rounds the final corner, again finding plenty of time, should move him up towards P18, and it does. P18 for Daniel Dees for 1:48.8, it's almost level with Santons, as Luke Tramner jumps up into P10 with that lap, 1:47.5. As we're now into the final 5 minutes of the session, and drivers finding more marginal improvements now, as the car just behind Tranmere, Milo Marquez, with an unfortunate team name, because apparently he doesn't like purple. I hate to tell him this, but there's an awful lot of it on his car. But he is finding some pace, improving by 0.4 of a second so far, and at enough of a distance not to be too disturbed by the car in front of him, can just concentrate on driving his lines. As we wind through the twisty section, my car just losing a little bit of time, but should still be a decent improvement on their lap. We follow them through the final 2 corners, just tucking in behind Tranmere, following his lines, and should actually jump considerably ahead of Tranmere after this lap. Should get a decent slipstream coming out of the final corner. though for the run down to the line, not too important as the line comes up pretty quickly after the final corner, and that is a 1:47.0 for Milo, and shoots them up into P6 in the standings. Though one driver who it will be slightly galling for the others to find going even faster is Reese Tattersall. Already sitting on a 1:46.1, is finding more and more pace out there. He throws the car around the remainder of the first sector and into the second. See how much of the curb does he use at the chicane. Oh, the answer there is absolutely all of it. Just keeping it within track limits though, and still going exceedingly quickly. He just keeps this one legal. This could be the first of our drivers to drop into the 1:45s. This will be a sensational lap in these cars. Reese Tattersall really getting to grips with what it takes to drive these Porsche Cup cars, and a little bit of a twitch there coming through the right-handed 90-degree turn, and has dropped considerable time. I'm not sure if he's going to make it up in the final corner. And nope, he's bailing out of this one, aiming to get the best possible run out of the final corner. And well, we're yet to see a driver get into the 45s. And we do have Johan Leff in the pit lane, so nothing more to come from Leff. So Tattersall not necessarily needing to do that much to improve now, but surely for just the bragging rights will want to get into the 1:45s. He knows it's there, knows he's got the pace within him. Samuel von Liebenstein sitting on a 1:47.0. Very popular time amongst the drivers, as we've got Marquardt, von Liebenstein, Sawyer and Weidbeck all sitting on a 1:47.0. So there's quite a few pockets of drivers on very similar times. So it's going to be interesting to see whether they can maintain that closeness during the race. We all know that Hungaroring is a notoriously hard track to overtake on, so if they're very similar on pace, we could have some long trains forming. As up in P3, Busso finding himself a little bit of pace. Currently sitting on a 1:46.6, but has got a couple of tenths in hand, and I wonder if he just gets the final corner right, could be challenging Leff here for P2 on the grid as he rounds the final corner, pins the throttle to the line. It's going to be close. He crosses the line. Busso takes P2 away from Leff. It's going to open things up for the race tonight, as Sam McCarthy, we'll go back to von Liebenstein, who crosses the line and goes P4 for now. As next to cross the line will be Matthew Parry. Comes around the final corner now. Will break the beam. Just about keeping it within track limits as he comes across the line. It is a 1:46.6. Takes P4 from von Liebenstein. As Sam McCarthy crosses the line for a 1:46.3 and again takes P4. Will Weidbeck be able to poach P4 again? I don't think so, but should be enough to jump him a couple of places up, and it does, up into P5 for Robert Weidbeck. As we just got one more driver to complete their flying lap, that of Tom Young. It's currently half second up on their previous best, but with the Golf in front of Chris Wright, which likely only be enough to get them a single position. And Young jumps ahead of Chris Wright. And we have got our starting grid for tonight's race with Reese Tattersall followed by Busso, Leff, McCarthy and Weidbeck. Back very shortly to start tonight's race. Welcome back everyone, as we just have a few moments to take us through the starting grid for tonight's race. On pole position we have got Reese Tattersall, who is followed by Busso starting alongside him. Then have Leff, McCarthy, Weidbeck, Parry. On Liebenstein, Sawyer, Macard, Crows, Bayhere, Zinski, Stricker, Tranmer, Young, Wright, Santons, Nielsen, Lorenzon, Eklund, Levinson, Dees, Lee, Demore, Mikulak, Veig, Sinskas, Nitro, Wilson, and finally Katchelmeyer. As the drivers start their engines and pull away for this formation lap, we are just a couple of short minutes away from the green flag here at the Hungaroring. As Reese Tattersall leads the pack around this formation lap. It's not the easiest of tracks to build up tyre temperature on the formation lap, just due to the low amount of grip here when you're not pushing at full pace. Very hard to get that temperature into the tyres, as we can see Reese Tattersall just slowing and speeding up the car, trying to get some energy into those tyres. Reese slows the entire pack down and then tries to gun it through the next corner. Just wanting to build up those temperatures. And seen drivers reporting that with the starting time of tonight's race, visibility into turn one with the sun low on the horizon is not the easiest to spot braking points and references, so it will be interesting to see, with the hope that drivers will be a bit more cautious with low visibility rather than just throwing caution to the wind. But with Busso starting so far up on tonight's race, be interesting to see whether he is has the appetite to go and try and fight Tattersall, or does he start to try and defend from behind, as this man Johan Leff will be wanting to make up positions to keep his championship fight alive. Equally so, Sam McCarthy behind has got his title rival Weidbeck alongside him. Those not fighting for the ultimate positions for the race, but certainly with a E4 and 5 in the offing, going to be a tight battle. And with 30 cars lining up to get this race started. See who wants to take the opportunity into turn 1. Though it is quite a treacherous whole first sector actually, turns 1 and 2. Drivers just need to be careful as the green flag waves and we are racing. It's a good start from Reese Tattersall and Johan Leff looking up the inside of Busso as he got close enough to get himself alongside into the braking zone as von Liebenstein looks to the middle between Weidbeck and Parry as von Liebenstein's got the run around as there's a little bit of contact in the background, but everyone's still pointing in the right direction and it is Leff who's got himself ahead of Busso. There's Reese Tattersall ahead of Leff with Busso, Sam McCarthy, Weidbeck and Parry behind. Von Liebenstein missing out slightly after getting ahead of Parry early on. We then have Sawyer, Marcard and Crows behind. But up at the front, Reese Tattersall still leading the way. As Leff takes an awful lot of the curb coming through the chicane. Gets bounced across the track but maintains position. As behind we have got quite the queue of cars behind Samuel von Liebenstein. With Matthew Parry having been passed by von Liebenstein. Then have Sawyer, Marcard and Crows in that gaggle of cars behind as people move out from that train trying to eye up a move. As we've got yellow flags in the background and what has happened here? I'm not sure who was the initiator there. If we go to... Oh! There's already something started. I think that is Marco Lorenzon I saw caught up in that. A number of cars facing backwards, all trying to get themselves pointed back in the right direction. And well, looks more like a ballet than a motor race back there. But at the front, still mightily composed with Reese Tattersall, Johan Leff and Busso leading this race. A little bit of a margin back to Sam McCarthy, who leads the second group of McCarthy, Weidbeck, von Liebenstein, Parry, Sawyer. And as Kenny Crows has got himself up and past Marcard. As we check back in to see how this occurred. Kenny Crows. Well, it looked like actually that was Marcard looking to try and get past Sawyer, which presented the opportunity to Crows as they come along side by side into the second corner. As Kenny Crows going to try and get this one swept around the outside, carries the speed, keeps the momentum. Good move by Crows up into P9 in this race. And as Sam McCarthy continues to lead this pack, the gap to the lead trio opening out ever so slightly, as Busso also dropping back slightly from left, becoming a bit of a two-horse race ahead. But Sam McCarthy managing this battle behind well, as now it is Weidbeck who is under pressure from Samuel von Liebenstein. In the toe as they come down, start-finish straight. The only real straight on this Hungaroring circuit, as is that Chris Wright emerging from the pit lane. I'm not sure what damage has caused Chris Wright to go and pit. He is the number is Chris 108. See if I can find out what has happened to Chris. Was he involved in... That is what has happened to Chris. That explains an awful lot. Well, sorry to say, for Chris Wright, he is now being shown the blue flags left, right and centre, and this is going to be a race to forget. No one else has to make a pit stop in this race, so He's going to have to put up with P29, I do fear. There's Samuel von Liebenstein. It's closing up onto the back of Robert Weidbeck. Weidbeck, who has dropped back from Sam McCarthy. And, well, can now concentrate at least on watching his mirrors. Is not threatening McCarthy ahead, who's got himself over a second gap and opening the door potentially to von Liebenstein. Liebenstein not opting to go for it. Smart move there, but it is Samuel von Liebenstein, who appears to be on a little bit of a charge now, but under threat from Matthew Parry, who's getting himself right up under the diffuser of that Porsche Cup car, the minimal diffuser that they do have. Not as much downforce on these cars as you get from the GT3 machinery. As Matthew Parry tries to carry the speed around the hairpin. As Florent Demore and Joe Wilson battle side by side. And now Joe Wilson side by side with Christian Fager. As they head down towards the hairpin, who is going to brake later? Oh, it's Florent Demore. You're the one who can't brake later. You've got a car in front of you. Oh no, it's all gone wrong. I'm going to stop watching that now. So Weidbeck caught back up to McCarthy as we've got yellow flags out for Lee. And what has happened to Lee? Oh, just a little bit of a self-spin there, and holds the brakes, keeps out of the way, and sensible stuff from Lee there. Not the greatest of spin turns, but we'll let him off. He held his brakes, and that's the important thing. We like to see safety. As the battle over P4 continues, this train of McCarthy, Weidbeck, von Liebenstein and Parry still extremely close together on track. As Johan Leff has dropped back somewhat from Rhys Tattersall and is now falling back towards Busso. And Busso perhaps spying an opportunity to move themselves up to a silver medal position. Not quite close enough to challenge at the moment, with that gap just opening up slightly. The top three appearing comfortable for now. But not far behind is this train of cars being led by Sam McCarthy. Sam McCarthy, who had a solid performance in qualifying, get themselves up there and is now leading this pack of cars around. And I am stalling for time as I work out. Yep. Oh, this would be a joint best position for Sam McCarthy after, of course, their very anonymous drive last race out, where we didn't see much from Sam until they crossed the line in P4. A slightly more eventful race this time out at the Hungaroring, with Weidbeck chasing McCarthy down. It is Matthew Parry who's looking like they're going to be the one to try and go for a move into the first corner. Opts against it as John Sawyer also trying to get on the throttle nice and early. Is he going to try and chase Parry down into turn 2? Again, not close enough. The effect of the slipstream not as strong as we might have expected. with these cars. It's never that strong around the Hungaroring as you come down to the first corner, but I maybe would have expected the Porsche Cup cars to be gain a little bit more benefit from it. As Tom Young is trying to take the fight to Florent Demore. Demore, who got caught up in that little incident earlier on, is now finding themselves under pressure from Young, who has a bit of a twitch there coming through in the uphill hairpin. Now drop back behind Daniel Dees. So now it's Dees who gets the opportunity to try and chase down Florent Demore. As Milo Macard chasing Kenny Crows, and we've got yellow flags out for Florent Demore. So what has happened here? Oh, yeah, well, I've done that one before. You cannot brake on the grass there, sir. That will spin you around. He'll learn from that. He won't do that one again. As Robert Weidbeck, closer than he has been for a while, onto the back of Sam McCarthy. Not going to be an opportunity to throw one up the inside into turn 2. So he opts to just carry the speed, try and follow McCarthy through the lap. Really not many overtaking opportunities on this circuit. And it's often a matter of just trying to get inside the other driver's head and force a mistake out of them. Make them go a bit too deep into a corner and open up that inside line. Otherwise, just not enough width of the track to put a car alongside. But Weidbeck doing everything he needs to at this point in the race, with still 18 minutes remaining to run. Behind we can see Matthew Parry looking to the outside of von Liebenstein as von Liebenstein makes a little mistake. Matthew Parry taking it to von Liebenstein on a part of the track you don't often see cars going side by side. So they head into the 90-degree right-hander as we get blocked by the advertising hoarding. They're still side by side. Matthew Parry trying to hang around the outside. If he can just hold on enough here, might have the inside line for the final corner. But this battling is slowing them both down considerably and has brought John Sawyer into the battle. As the three of them are running nose to tail down the start-finish straight. And it was a good attempt from Matthew Parry. Has at least shown some of the tools he's got in his toolbox for racing side by side. And von Liebenstein will be aware of the danger he got himself into. Surely Matthew Parry will be a little bolder on the attack next time he gets an opportunity to take the inside. So they come down into the chicane again, bouncing over the sausage curbs. Up in front of this fighting trio, Robert Weidbeck still stuck to the spoiler of Sam McCarthy. And this camera angle is absolute trash. Oh, as Robert Weidbeck gets a horrendous snap of oversteer on the throttle there. And that has caused him to drop back somewhat from the back of Sam McCarthy. I'm not sure if he's been running those rear tyres a little ragged, but don't seem to be offering the grip that he was expecting there. As further back, Roland Stricker tucks up right underneath the wing of Balázs Feher. They come down towards turn 1. Stricker's having a look. Bit too far back to really go for anything, but letting him know he's there, getting himself big in the mirrors. And this is where the opportunity might come for Stricker as he looks to the inside. Won't get alongside under braking, but will just hope to try and make Feher run himself deep on the brakes. No such luck at the moment, but is running Feher awfully close as they approach the what will be blue flagged car of Chris Wright. Wright having an absolutely nightmare of a race, I must imagine, as well, he didn't expect to be getting blue flagged in a 30-minute sprint race. As Roland Stricker getting all sorts of out of control. As Feher will be screaming at his monitor if he's not in the voice chat with Chris Wright. And Chris Wright holding position as he is entitled to do so, but I'm sure Balázs Feher won't be taking too kindly to this, as it's putting him under all sorts of pressure from Roland Stricker. As we come out of the final corner, Chris Wright holds the line, and I guess for Balázs the saving grace will be he's able to get the slipstream as Roland Stricker has a look. No opportunity to go for, or as Chris Wright gets out of the way of this fighting pair, and Wright has to be careful here not to defend the inside, has to back right out of it and allows the two cars to go through as their battle continues. And this is what I was saying about the Hungaroring. Roland Stricker looking like he's got the pace, but just can't unleash it. As soon as you get yourself tucked up behind another car as Roland Stricker takes to the grass. Still no way through. Although, that being said, I think Joe Wilson has got himself up and past Luke Tranmere. Bold move up the inside of the chicane. Well done. Joe Wilson, take a bow. That was a committed move up the inside. Sure, there must have been a small mistake in there from Tranmere to allow that to happen, but Wilson knew what he wanted to do and executed it perfectly. As we rejoin the battle over P6, Matthew Parry still in the slipstream of von Liebenstein. Is getting well acquainted with the bumper of the car of von Liebenstein. I'm sure he'll be able to see the back of that car every time he blinks for the rest of the evening. He's been stuck there for so long. As they head up the hill towards the chicane. You can see, as long as the driver ahead just keeps it calm, doesn't make too many large mistakes, easy just to hold position. As just behind this group, Roland Stricker keeping stuck to the back of Balázs as the two of them catching up to Szynski as well, who's running a new livery for tonight's race. And Stricker glances, looks again, looks a third time. You can look all you like, you're not close enough to try and make a move. And Stricker looks to the outside, but just not the room there to really make that around the outside. Inside line is so much shorter than the outside. A wider radius corner, you could maybe go for that. But one overtake that has happened is failed to happen. What's happened here then? Is this Matthew Parry just going far, far too deep on the brakes? I think it is, and I think von Liebenstein had to turn in early there to try and get around the back of Katchelmeier, and that caught Parry out. And Parry, as we've got Roland Stricker off the circuit. Oh, just trying to take tighter line through the corner, gets on the throttle too early with too much steering angle, and off into the grass after what looked like quite a promising battle. Up behind Balazs Fahit, dropped from P14 all the way down to P18. There's Jens Nielsen. On the back of a newcomer Marcard. As Parry has made it past von Liebenstein again after dropping quite considerably. Oh! Von Liebenstein well off the track there on the grass. And that gifts the position over to Parry. And now von Liebenstein with Sawyer and Kroos close behind. Has already lost one position to that mistake. And now has this pair hunting him down. As the battles further up the field seemed to have died down somewhat. Patzel, Leff and Busso just running their own races for now. McCarthy still with Weidbeck for company, though Weidbeck is just over a second away. Does seem to be holding station for now. As Jens Nielsen looks to the outside of Marcard. Marcard covers it off as they come down the hill out of the hairpin. Nose to tail. Not really an opportunity to try and go for an overtake through this turn. But keeping the pressure applied is Jens Nielsen. As Kenny Kroos side by side with John Sawyer makes it up and through. We'll get this one from another angle. Kenny Kroos setting this one up in the hairpin. Side by side as they come up the hill. And in the end, Kroos with the nose ahead coming into the chicane. Had the position before they even entered the corner. And that is solid racing there by Kenny Kroos up into P8. As up ahead of us, Matthew Parry still leading von Liebenstein by just under a second. Has not been able to utilise their pace to pull enough of a gap as von Liebenstein sticks in reasonably close behind. As Roland Stricker has dropped further back now, down to P17. Actually, sorry, not further back. Was down here already, but now on the back of Christian Fager as they come through the final corner. As Chris Wright's race goes from bad to worse, and is now serving a drive-through penalty, which I can only imagine is for track limits violations. And I just hope that he didn't pick those up from moving aside to let other cars pass, because that would be quite tragic. But Chris Wright rejoins the race in P28. As Tom Young getting overtaken there by Matthew Santons. Santons now up into P19. As Jens Nielsen looking up the inside of Marquard as they come through to finish off the second sector into the final sector. Jens Nielsen still with the inside line. Will turn to the outside as they get to the hairpin, and looks like Marquard might have done enough to hold on to this position. Nielsen will try and throw it around the outside, maintain the speed on the throttle, but has dropped back. Going to have to try and optimize the line out of the final corner as we enter into the final 5 minutes of this race. Nielsen in the slipstream of Marquard. Marquard moving to a slightly defensive line, but Nielsen deep on the brakes. Gets it slowed down before the apex as Marquard has a big snap of oversteer. This has given the inside line over to Jens Nielsen as Marquard tries to cover him off, but Nielsen keeping it pinned, and these two still side by side as Nielsen keeps it on the circuit, and Marquard all out of control. And this is also going to allow Sosinski through up into P12 with a bold committed send up the inside. And Marquard, in battling so hard to try and hold on to P10, has also lost P11 to Tadeusz Sosinski. What fantastic racing from this group of drivers, and Marquard is not going to let this one go. He's trying to fight it back, but Sosinski holding on to the position. As behind these, Marco Lorenzon getting himself up into P22 with a slow Michalak up the inside. Looks like Lorenzon carrying considerable amount of damage to that car, but gets it moved up the inside. As Roland Schricker now stuck to the back of Fager as they weave around the circuit. As Schricker chucks it up the inside, so around the outside, and we lose sight of them completely. Now Schricker to the inside, a little bit of a touch from them. And Schricker getting all out of sorts, but does mean that Fager's going to have the inside line as they come through the final corner. Schricker gets the throttle pinned nice and early. As they come down the start-finish line, there's nothing between them. And Schricker looks to the inside. He's got it side by side into the braking zone. As Fager looks for the switchback. But it's Roland Schricker who manages to get the better drive out the corner. I don't think Fager's going to be able to attack this one up the inside. No, goes deep on the brakes. Shoots out of the corner, and well, I think Fager's just going to be glad that Leveson was too far back to capitalise on that one, because that was quite a big mistake from Fager there. As we enter into what will be the final lap of this race, as our leader is about to cross the start-finish line. Vibek will just have one lap remaining to try and take P4 away from Sam McCarthy, as he's been trying to do all race. And Vibek, optimistic look to the inside. Perhaps just trying to show his intent nice and early. He wants to try and get by on this lap, but is going to lose the two biggest opportunities to do so. And as they descend the hill, it is Sam McCarthy ahead of Robert Vibek. Looks like McCarthy so far has done enough to hold on to P4. I won't congratulate him yet, as I do not want to bestow the commentator's curse that we know is so potent in this Porsche Cup series. As they head into the final sector of this lap. We'll check back in with our race leader, Reese Tattersall, as he rounds the final 2 corners of this Hungaroring circuit to take what will be his 5th victory of the season, as what is proving to be a dominant run from the Bruce liveried driver. As Reese Tattersall takes the win here at the Hungaroring, he will be followed by a Johan Leff and Busso rounding out the podium. Still running in P4 is Sam McCarthy, who is followed exceptionally closely behind by Robert Weidbeck. They're followed by Matthew Parry, Samuel von Liebenstein and Kenny Kroes. P9 will be John Sawyer. And then Jens Nilsson will take P10, followed by Tadeusz Szynski, Milo Marcard, Balazs Fahir and Joe Wilson in P14. Oh dear, that will be a loss of pit rep for hitting the wall, you muppet. Luke Tranmer takes P15, followed by Roland Schricker and Christian Fager. Side by side across the line come Levison and Young for P19 and 18 and 19. Matthew Santons for P20, followed by Marco Lorenzon, Daniel Dees, Gregor Michalak, and then completing our runners on the lead lap of this race will be Florent de Moor and Nitro. Oh, we had a slightly more exciting than would otherwise have been predicted race here at the Hungaroring. I honestly thought this could have been an opportunity for me to take a small nap, but in the end, our Pitskill drivers provided more than enough entertainment with this race. And we will return next week when the Pitskill.io Porsche Cup, sponsored by SimQuips, will be heading to Kyalami in South Africa. If you are interested in joining these races or any other of the races offered by Pitskill, please do take a look at my referral link in the description below. And as always, if you have enjoyed this stream, please do like and subscribe. It does help people find us. And until this time next week, I bid you a very good rest of your week. And please stay tuned for tonight's races highlights. Goodbye.